Hey everybody, so in today's video we are going to be diving into a topic that I know at least one, two, if not all parents have dealt with, and that is having your child throw a tantrum in public. And I know having your child throw a tantrum in public can be overwhelming, it can be stressful, and let's just face it, it can be pretty embarrassing. But in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few tips on how to keep your cool and not feel as embarrassed when it comes to having your child throw a tantrum in public. So first off, let's just start by understanding that tantrums are a normal part of child development. Every child goes through a stage where they are either overwhelmed, they're frustrated, maybe you told them that no, they can't have something that they really want, or maybe they just can't verbally express how they're feeling or their emotions, and as a result of that, a big tantrum may happen. So it's important to know that just because a child is throwing a tantrum, that doesn't necessarily have a reflection on you or mean that you are necessarily a bad parent, because guess what? You're not the only parent who's ever had a child throw a tantrum in public. So if you start to look at things from that perspective, maybe it'll help you realize that it shouldn't be something to feel so embarrassed about, because you're not the only one that it's happened to. So one of the first things that you should do when your child is throwing a tantrum, and I know this is going to sound way easier said than done, but when your child starts to throw a tantrum, you need to stay cool, stay calm, take a deep breath, and you may even need to engage in some sort of self-talk for a second, right? Just to remind yourself to, okay, keep calm, stay cool, right? And your child is in that fight or flight mode and they're starting to have a huge tantrum, the last thing that you want to do is start to show you getting revved up or worked up or overwhelmed or mad or frustrated, because your child's reaction will feed off of you. So if your child is seeing that you're getting elevated, it's just going to make that situation more elevated. But if your child sees that you're still calm, you're still speaking in a soft voice, you're still cool, that may help your child to calm a little bit faster. So taking a deep breath and grounding yourself first is going to help your child also be able to calm more efficiently. The next piece of advice I have for you is to shift your focus away from other people. Now, if your child is throwing a tantrum, not only are you worried about that, but then there's other people around you, and so your mind starts to kind of focus on everybody else and what they're thinking about you, what they're thinking about your child, and your focus starts to shift all over the place, right? So now you're really feeling overwhelmed, you're really feeling stressed, and you're feeling even more embarrassed because you're not only focusing on your child in that moment, now you're starting to think about everybody else. So my advice for you is to stop doing that, right? Because guess what? Those people are strangers. 9 times out of 10, either A, they're not thinking about you, B, if they are thinking about you, it might be for a quick second and then they're moving on about their day. Or honestly, there may be people that may judge you, but guess what? You don't know them, they don't know you. 9 times out of 10, you're never gonna see that person ever again. Or most of those people probably have a child that has had a tantrum before. So when you think that they may be judging you, in fact, they may be thinking to themselves, oh, I've been there before, right? So you just never know what people are thinking, if they're judging you or not. And guess what? That's not your place to know that, because if they are, then that's on them. It's nothing to do with you. Your goal in that moment is to focus on your child, make sure your child is safe first and foremost, and focus on how to help your child work through those big emotions. My next piece of advice for you is to remind yourself that you're doing the best that you can. So don't beat yourself up, don't call yourself a bad parent, don't say you're never gonna come out in public ever again. So be gentle with yourself and realize that you're doing the best that you can, and that is more than enough. My next piece of advice for you is to have a plan in place. Now, if you already know that you're gonna be going out and about with your child, my advice is to have some type of toolkit with you or a little backpack with some of your child's favorite things in there. Some of them may be like a favorite snack, a stuffed animal, a favorite little toy, or a fidget, something that is going to keep your child occupied and also help them to remain calm and regulated during your public outing something or going to run an errand with you. Now, there are times and cases where your child may be throwing what looks like a tantrum, but it could actually be a meltdown. Because typically a tantrum is done when a child either wants something and they can't get their way, or they're trying to get out of something that you've asked them to do, or they're trying to seek your attention in some type of way. And if you give in to what they want, then it's going to stop. The tantrum is going to stop and you guys are going to move forward, right? That's typically how a tantrum works. The child is acting out because you didn't give them what they wanted, and until you give them what they want, they're going to continue acting out. But my advice to you is don't give in to that. But a meltdown, on the other hand, is something that your child can't necessarily control. You can bribe them and give them all the cookies and ice cream in the world, but that's not going to change them having a meltdown. Because unlike a tantrum being the result of your child wanting something and can't get in their way, a meltdown is more so when your child is overstimulated or having some type of sensory overload, and their body and their sensory system just can't interpret that information correctly, and it's too much for them. So the lights may be too bright in the store, there may be too much visual distractions, there may be too much noise, too many people, too many sounds, there may be too many smells, whatever have you. It's too much for your child. It's too stimulating for them. And so that may result in your child having a meltdown, which could look similar to a tantrum, which may involve kicking and screaming and all of that. But a meltdown could also look like your child completely shutting down. And so my advice for you is, if your child is one that has, let's say, a sensory processing challenge, or they become stimulated very easily, my advice is to have a sensory toolkit with you with some of those items I just mentioned, and even maybe some noise canceling headphones to kind of block out some of that stimulation that's coming in. Now, if you are a parent out there and you do have a child that actually does have sensory processing challenges, or they have autism or some type of other diagnosis, and you've been kind of afraid or hesitant to take them to public events because you fear that they're going to have a meltdown or a tantrum of some sort, you definitely want to stick around and watch this next video: 7 tips for taking your child with autism or sensory processing disorder into public events. So guys, make sure you subscribe, like this video, share it with a loved one, and if you found some tips or done some things that has helped your child be successful and reduce tantrums in public, share those things below, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.